Hi, and thanks for joining me today. I'm Lauren Rosencrantz with EDR's Market Research Group, and today I'll be interviewing two of our managers of our historical research team. And with me I have David Hildebrandt, who is our Senior Field Manager in Texas, and Troy Pearce, who's our Assistant Field Manager in Michigan. So thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thank you.
And we're going to ask Troy a few questions today about, Troy and David, a few questions today about their jobs at EDR and about how our field researchers are working for our clients every day. So let's get started. The first question I have for you guys is, how has technology changed the way you do your jobs?
I think one of the ways is that we're able to take information from clients faster and to get that information back out to them in a much more timely manner. For instance, when I first started in '95, we were receiving faxes from our clients and trying to just keep a paper trail going. Now, that automated web process, you can get information in and get it out so much faster, 24 hours, next day turnaround times, and just to be able to provide it back in a digital format instead of a hard copy FedEx. I mean, one, you got the ability to get it quicker, you cut down on the paper trail. You know, everybody's going green too, so this is a good way for all of that to be managed in an efficient way.
And along those same lines is the way that we access the data that we provide. Again, a lot of that is in digital format as well. It makes it, that's one of the reasons that we're able to obtain the data so quickly. Online imagery that's been scanned, software that allows data entry to take place much more quickly. All those technological advances have helped speed up the process in the time that it takes to get back out to the client.
Great. And you both manage a national network of researchers. How does the local knowledge of each of your team members help them do their job better?
I think just knowing the differences in how a city has evolved. I mean, you have a history of streets that go back for, let's use Austin, Texas, for example. You had a number of streets that were named after trees. There were Pecan Street, Elm Street, and Pecan is now our big main entertainment district, which is 6th Street. But back in the day, 1920, 1910, early 1900s, it was Pecan. And there were businesses, there were horse stables, there were in some cases a small gas station. So you'd have an ability when doing a city directory to know how those street names changed, when they changed, what to look for. Because not every city directory says 6th Street formerly known as, but there are some things that having that local knowledge base, and our researchers in most cases are always, most of them born in the states where they research. So this network that we have across the U.S. has the ability to tap into those local roots and understand how to research and provide a quality report that goes back in time.
Very interesting.
I think another aspect is the relationships that the researchers form at their particular facilities. Every state is set up a little bit different. Some people might have to go to 2 or 3 different buildings to obtain city directories or aerials, topo maps. It varies from region to region. And I know for me in Michigan, I've been there for 8 years, and I've formed very close bonds. You know, working relationships with the librarians and archivists, and you know, that I think that helps. It gives us a little competitive advantage, because if we need a little something extra, they're willing to kind of go out of their way to provide things for us, missing imagery gaps, and you know, that they'll fill those for us if we make a request. And I think that helps a lot to have somebody from that state and somebody that's there on a regular basis in the research process.
And why is it important to rely on more than one historical source?
That's a good question, because a lot of times we'll get orders just to fill maybe a city directory only. But if you combine that with, let's say, a Sanborn map or an aerial photo, Sanborn in particular, in the case I can think of is an older city directory might have what's called a tourist court in it. And you know, they're just older style hotels. You pull off a road into a tourist court, usually on the outside of the city. But a Sanborn might show that that tourist court also had a single pump above ground, or maybe it was below ground, but a pump gas station on that facility, on that property. But the city directory may only say Thompson's Tourist Court, and that, you know, could be a flag to, if you're just using a city directory, if you see Tourist Court, hey, maybe I'll check this Sanborn out too, and see if that has the potential to show other things on the property like a gas station.
And not just showing, you know, what exactly might be there, like the Sanborn map did, but the coverage itself, using various resources. For instance, if you have a city directory only, you might only get maybe 10 years of coverage, where if you are using a mix and you have aerials, and maybe you're in an area where Sanborns aren't available, aerials are very good in rural areas for having more coverage. You might get 70 years of coverage rather than just 10 or no coverage at all with the city directory. So having a variation, really helps with covering those gaps.
Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank
Nice
you.
to be here.